What's up, Renegade Nation? Before we begin the video, I want to give a shout out to our most recent Patreon supporters and YouTube members. Keenan Greenwood, YoDude48, Josh Combs, Yeet, Nicholas A. Montgomery, Silent Valor, Brendan Wells, Silverstorm Forge, Big Geek, Damn Is It, Anthony Espino, Richard Black, Owen, Fordrin, Acoleyte, Sammy Wilson, Jamie Irwin, Ollie6006, Anthony the Hedgehog, Lee John Peter Owens, Kiki, Anthony, Nia, Antonio Joia, Graffiti Turtle, Ross Lingard, T Sunset, Wolbach DKs, Goddess Gaia, Grace Shields, Midnewit, Smooth Weaver, Robin Funkhauser, Geraldine Camoan, Purex Lancer, JT Campbell, Ethan Robinson, Desi 00, The Whiskey Laddie, Austin Ramirez, Liam McCabe, King Mr. Mew, and I'd also like to give a shout out to our executive producers Joshua Fix, The Gimpster 101, and Bevan Berman. Thank you all very much for your support. If you wish to become a YouTube member, click the join button, which is down by the subscribe button down below. And if you wish to support us on Patreon, click the link in the description to find out more. We'll see you there. I'm doing my task today. I'm doing my task today.
I'm doing my task today.
I'm doing my task today. So, this video actually, to me, is pretty relevant in multiple facets. You know, heel turns are a common thing in wrestling, and
especially if you're the Big Show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was actually going to talk about that. Oh my gosh, they kept record 27 heel turns for that man in his entire WWE career. 27. And they always...
He had a bunch in WCW, too.
Yeah, he had a few in WCW. I remember the one where he went to, like, NWO for a little bit, and then he came back to WCW, and then...
well, he had to drop the belt to Hogan, and after that, they had to do something, you know?
Yeah, because Hogan was just like, listen, brother, I'm the Hulkster. I'm supposed to have the belt.
He brought the Giant into the business, though.
He did, yeah. Well, he brought him in to be his slam piece.
I mean... They put the belt on him, you know. So that's...
They did, but for how long? This is the same guy that...
They didn't put the belt on anybody in WCW, though. So for them to put it on him was a huge fucking deal. Look how long it took for Booker T, dude. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And when
the run he could have had.
And then when he finally gets it, next thing you know, the company goes down the shitter, and there are 25 title changes within the span of a year. 25 title changes. And yes, I am including vacancies in that as well, where they literally just took the belt off of the champion and said, all right, we're either having a tournament or, hey, this guy gets it because I feel like it. Like, you are literally devaluing the title so much. Oh, my God. Shows you the level of care that he actually had for the wrestling business.
No, patience. He just didn't have patience to let shit develop over a period of, you know, a long time. There was no boil to him. It had to be a home run every night.
Yeah, and for me, my thing was watching WCW at that point. I tuned out before like a lot of stuff happened.
I was deep into WWF at that point.
Same thing for me.
The last 2 years, I guess.
Last thing from WCW I ever watched was when DDP quit.
Oh,
when Paige quit, I was like, well, that's that. There goes my primary interest in this entire thing, because he was my favorite wrestler out of who was left there in WCW at the time. I mean, I liked Booker T and everything, but they just wouldn't keep the belt on him for some reason. And then, when
Sting disappeared,
Sting was the other one.
I was done.
I remember when Goldberg quit, Nash quit, Hulk Hogan, you know, got a microphone and literally said, this is why this business is failing, Russo, because of bullshit like this. And then Russo comes out, cuts like a big 5-minute promo on like how unworkable Hulk Hogan is and everything and this and that. It's like, oh my gosh.
Thanks thanks for airing the dirty laundry, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, thanks a shit ton there, Vince. And then he tries to bring in like actual tough guys like Tank Abbott, and like tries to like legitimize pro wrestling. Like, we got to turn it into something more viable, bro. We got to make it something more real. We got to bring in people like Tank Abbott. It's like, can he wrestle? It's like, who gives a shit? He'll just go in there and beat the shit out of everybody. It's like, that's not how it works, man. It's like, fucking hell. It's how I say it fucking works.
Yeah. No thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, but heel turns are, if they are pulled off great, are some of the best ever. Probably the most infamous of all time is, like, well, in terms of good heel turns, is Hulk Hogan at Bash to the Beach in 96. I mean, it single-handedly, like, shifted the industry in such a direction to which they're still trying to emulate nowadays.
Hogan's career, man.
Well, Hogan's career was revitalized entirely. I mean, he went from, like, a running joke, little Hulkamaniacs, make sure you say your prayers and take your vitamins, and then all of a sudden it's just like Hollywood Hulk Hogan comes out with playing the belt down to the friggin' ring to Voodoo Child by Jimmy Hinn. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's the best shit ever.
It got pretty wild.
Best
we got
heel shit ever.
Dude.
We did. And then there
Hulkamaniacs, brother.
Oh yeah.
Upset.
I remember that night watching that on pay-per-view, like people throwing shit into the ring. They were like throwing like bottles and cups and like popcorn, and Hulk Hogan just stood there with Mean Gene and cut like the promo of his life right there.
It was pretty savage.
Yes. This is a list not about those though. These are heel turns that massively backfired. Ooh. Either they were pulled off either at the wrong time, too late, or whether no one was asking for it. I mean, I remembered them trying to make someone heel. I remember them trying to make Becky Lynch heel, and then all of a sudden she blew up as a face, and they were like, well, I guess we better run with this.
Yep.
And then the man was born.
Dude.
Yeah, you have to run with what the fans
organic,
want.
I mean, you can't do any better than that. So
yeah,
just let it happen.
Except Vince is just like, no, I know what the fans want. CM Punk, we're going to have the Summer of Punk. It's like, okay, what are you going to do with him? He's going to lose, then he's going to lose, then there's going to be a disqualification, and then he'll win. It's like, Vince, it's September. It's like, well, it's the Summer of Punk. We'll just call it the Summer of Punk, and people will think something's amazing. It's like, no, Vince. And then there was Daniel Bryan. They did everything they could to, completely derail Daniel Bryan, and then the fans literally had a revolt and said, you are not denying this man his time. And then there was the most recent one that pissed me off was Kofi Kingston. When they outright... They fed him to Brock Lesnar. They fed him to Brock Lesnar for no reason. No reason. Because
why? Because Brock Lesnar.
Bork Laser. Jesus. I remember when my dad said that the first time, I couldn't stop laughing.
That's
Bork Laser. The amazing Red Lobster Man. Bork Laser. Gosh. But massive heel turns that backfired by Wrestle Talk. Let's see what happens. Here we go.
Support Wrestle Talk.
Give us a subscribe.
Way ahead of you.
Wrestling history is littered with important heel turns. Grumpy boys and their big paddies that, in the best case scenario, can revitalize an entire company. Hogan turning heel in WCW made $6 bajillions of the dollars, and WCW won the Monday Night War, right up until Vince McMahon turned heel and won it right the back. Sometimes heel turns don't work. There are plenty of those. Becky Lynch turned heel on Charlotte at SummerSlam and overnight became WWE's biggest face. Rikishi going from bum man to bum murderer. Sting turning heel in WCW and the fans refusing to boo him because no, Sting is a nice man.
Yes.
Daniel Bryan being history's greatest monster by asking us to recycle and try a juice cleanse. But wrestling is wrestling, gimmicks get changed, and most of the time, failed heel turns aren't significantly damaging. Most of the time. This is 10 wrestling heel turns that massively backfired.
Oh, no.
Number 10, Braun Strowman's career momentum gets murdered. And never the bride. It seems that ever since Braun Strowman wasn't finished with Roman Reigns, and according to the ancient prophecy, he's still not finished with him, it seems like we've been waiting for WWE to pull the trigger and turn the indestructible double bass playing, ambulance flipping, grappling hook wielding Looney Tune into the face of the company. Indeed, when he won Money in the Bank in 2019, we thought it was finally happening. He got a thunderous pop at SummerSlam when it looked like he would cash in against the Bog Dog and the Beastie Boy, and then, oh no. He turned heel, allied himself with Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler, and was immediately nerfed beyond all recognition. The man who could flip over the sky itself suddenly needed backup. The indestructible monster suddenly couldn't finish a Hell in a Cell match after Lesnar interference, and it was a straw that broke the camel's back for the audience's patience with the brown snowman. Despite them scrapping his heel run right the fuck quick, Strowman has never again reached that level of god-tier popularity.
And he probably never will.
He dances, and I am sad. Number 9, HBK turns heel, ruins dream match. Okay, so maybe 40-year-old Shawn Michaels versus 52-year-old Hulk Hogan may not have been a dream match to some of you hardcore wrestling fans who like main eventers with their original hips, but I was excited about the main event of SummerSlam 2005.
I was too.
The match itself, however, was a bewildering kaleidoscope of limbs and flesh. So HBK is having, shall we say, a bit of a tantrum in this match, overselling Hogan's offense like he's Billy f***ing Mays.
I will never forget watching this. I couldn't stop laughing because I knew wrestling was not like I knew it was scripted at this point, but it's the rope opera. I didn't care.
Oh, dude, he hammed it up and oversold everything, dude. That Billy Mays comparison is one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard in my entire life.
I agree with it, dude. It's 100% on the nose. Good job, Adam.
Yeah.
Good shit.
Shawn was a bit peeved with the Hulkster because his creative control had taken over the feud, and one of his many forced changes was that Shawn Michaels turned heel. HBK was against the move, thinking it should be face versus face, but Hogan got his way, and it was clear he wasn't in WWE for much of the 90s, because otherwise he would know, don't make Shawn grumpy. Well, said Mr. Hickenbottom, if you can't beat him, do enough Cirque du Soleil to break wrestling. And so, well, the match happened, and there were no rematches. So this is what HBK versus Hulk Hogan looks like forever. HBK turned face immediately after SummerSlam, and so the heel turn that Hulk thought would make the match more exciting blew up in his big orange face. Number 8, Bret Hart becomes just another guy in WCW.
The wasted potential of Bret Hart in WCW.
Year for Vince McMahon as Grand Ham Slammers. The weirdest and probably most stressful part of that year was the fact that his company had pretty much only 2 definite main eventers, and one of them f***ed off to his biggest competition. That's one of those days you remember. The circumstances of Bret Hart's departure were so insane, so attention-grabbing. He was the goddamn WWF champion. He'd been screwed. What the hell was he going to do in WCW? Answer: turn heel and become just another member of the already tired NWO. Instead of getting Hart versus Hogan on pay-per-view, he became one of his lackeys and didn't really have long-term major feuds with anyone. Golden sand just pouring through WCW's fingers. All the money they could have made by treating Bret like the huge star that he was. Instead, to give you an idea of how much WCW blundered it, Bret Hart versus Hulk Hogan only happened one time on an episode of Nitro, and it ended with a non-finish. Well done, everyone. Here's your...
I love that.
on an episode of Nitro,
the sign in the background. Other channel, jackass.
Yeah.
I love that. But I remember the first feud I ever saw Bret Hart get involved in WCW. It was against Diamond Dallas Page, and they had a killer match at World War III where I'd never seen it before. It had been done before, I believe, by Bret Hart. He did the figure 4 leg lock on the outside of the ring post, and it was like, I was like, whoa!
Oh, yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
It makes it look way cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Insanity.
And
Bret Hart's a beast like that, and he'll work it to that spot in a way that, you know, you see a struggle, and then that's like a part of the big ass climax at the end, the final big moment of that whole encounter. He likes,
well, dude,
he set shit up so fucking awesome, man.
Yeah, he was a genius wrestling technician. He got that from his dad, and he got that from being in the booking office like when he was a kid and seeing how it went. And matches that are done like that are pastime in a lot of
Well,
ways.
like him and Owen, their match is so
man.
fucking great because
Oh,
you
multiple
always
matches
hear
of
from
theirs.
people, you know, like you got to respect the ref. Don't break the rules right in front of him. You'll look stupid. Watch Owen Hart versus Bret Hart.
Yes.
All Owen does is fuck with the referee and cheat right in front of him and push him and just do every obnoxious, awful fucking thing that he can think of to do. And it's every rule that every wrestling trainer has ever told me not to do. He does it and just does it perfect.
Yeah. And every
It's
match that
fucking
Bret and
amazing.
Owen had was pretty much a barn burner. WrestleMania, SummerSlam, their big blow-off
The WrestleMania match is the one I'm talking about.
10, yeah, where Owen where Owen went over. But their SummerSlam match where they had the cage match, that was awesome. And then their final match that they had together on Raw, I believe it was 2 weeks after the cage match, it was really good all
They're
around.
fucking
And
amazing.
talk about a great heel turn as well, Owen Hart. And it was well deserved because Bret had been the apple of the company's eye and of his father's eye, storyline wise, for so many years. And Owen's just like, I've had enough of this crap, man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Non-finished.
love it.
Well done, everyone. Here's your good job cake. Number 7, Michael Cole makes Raw unwatchable.
Yeah.
Did we enjoy it when a heel is on screen? Was CM Punk a good heel because we respected his charisma, storytelling, and wrestling? We actually enjoyed it when he was around? If a heel is cool, is that more a case of ego getting in the way of the product? And should we, in fact, hate the heel being around? Because just taken in isolation, I think when Michael Cole turned heel in 2010, he was, from a purist perspective, the best heel in WWE. I think generally because the purpose of every part of a wrestling show should be in service of selling matches to the audience, I want to see someone kick the shit out of Michael Cole more than any other heel on the roster. He
And
was
then
a
we finally got it.
swaggering phallus, a Pratt Man Jones, and a prick Lord Dweebstorm and a dick cup, so job done. Except he was also lead announcer, play-by-play announcer, and audible 100% of the time. There is only so much I can stand. I can stands no more. He was such a good heel.
Moderation.
He broke the show, which on
Moderation
one hand,
is a
I
great
respect it,
way of,
but on the
like,
other
balancing
hand,
that.
is the remote control, which I'm using to change the channel. Number 6, Jim Ross turns heel with fake Razor and fake Diesel. Good old JR has been bad old JR, not once, not 4 times, but twice in his WWE career.
Bad
Although
old
he ascended to
JR.
the pantheon of wrestling legend where you're such a cherished part of the industry you can never really be an effective heel again, they turned him twice. The second time in 1999 was an immediate bust and quickly scrapped. They tried to turn him heel by kicking Michael Cole in the bollocks. That didn't
Yay!
work. The first time, however, hoo boy. The year was 1996, also known as the year that Hall and Nash defected to WCW, created the NWO, and gently placed Vince over their knees and patted his little bottom. WWE's plan to counter the betrayal was basically Doctor Whoing Razor Ramon and Diesel.
no.
Since WWE still owned those characters, they recast them with Rick
Kane
Bobby
as
and Glenn.
Diesel.
That's gotta be Kane
That's
Jenkins,
hilarious.
and thought the fans would say, yeah, seems legit. It would be like if I wrote the word money on a piece of paper and tried to buy a Honda Civic with it. In an even more baffling move, they tried to sell this by turning JR heel and having him basically be their manager. So the face commentators were like, that's not Diesel and Razor, JR. And he responds, no, you shut up. What was the plan? I don't understand. Did you want the copycats to get over or not? The whole thing just blew up and made everyone involved in it look bad, and WCW's edgier product all the better by comparison. Number 5, Vince Russo turns the entire mid-card heel. Oh, I'm sorry, WCW. You might want to calm down because I'm not finished with you. After teetering on the precipice for years, in 2000, World Championship Wrestling lost its f***ing mind. See, my dad, Eric Bischoff, had seduced all of Vince's top talent away with contractual creative control, and those bad seeds began to flourish into trees made out of cantankerous old men who weren't horny for putting over young talent. In late 99, WCW decided to hire Vince Russo, the man at the time commonly credited with creating WWE's Crash-style Attitude Era programming to...
Credited. Credited. Nah, not credited. He literally just ran. He's like, no, it was all my idea, bro. It was my idea for Mankind to go off the top of the cage, bro. It was my idea for Undertaker to sacrifice Ryan Shamrock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, bro. It was all my idea, bro. Right, Vince.
to come in and fix all of WCW's problems. WWE had the best mid-card in wrestling history at the time. Hold my beer, said WCW, and proceeded to turn its entire mid-card heel as its gigantic Uber stable, the New Blood, against the Millionaires Club, aka Sting, Ric Flair, DDP, Hogan, everyone the fans were tuning in to see. Russo appeared as an on-screen character, even going as far as firing Hulk Hogan in a promo that went from work to shoot real quick, and ended with Hogan suing the company. A gigantic explosion of bad ideas in a time when such things could not be afforded. Number 4, TNA becomes immortal and slowly dies. The New World Order was something that started small, brilliant and explosive, and gradually ballooned into a stultifying, multifaceted, product-consuming blob. TNA said, let's do that, but faster. Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff went to TNA in 2010 and started playing the old hits. They did an auto-tune remix of the Monday Night Wars that resembled less two titans fighting and more like a kid making pew-pew gun sounds at his dad while he reads the paper and ignores him. The big plan, however, debuted at Bound for Glory when Jeff Hardy turned heel with about 60% of the roster to form Immortal, which was like the NWO, but like starting with the bit where it was too big. No shade on Hardy because his Antichrist gimmick was actually pretty good, but it got lost in amongst the blob.
Yeah.
Plus, he was also their biggest mainstream draw for casual WWE fans at the time, and turning him into a corporate raid monster who did less flippy didn't help ratings or attendance at all. If Hardy had turned heel by himself, it could have been something interesting, but the mass healing only evoked the worst memories of WCW. Speaking of, number 3, the last hope for WCW turns. If this list is starting to feel like I'm dogpiling on WCW, well, remember, this isn't a list of the worst heel turns, but the most damaging ones, and, well, WWE is still here. So, WCW in 2000 then. A million cats in a cardboard box, except the cats are all insane ideas. The biggest
ICP
turning Goldberg, the last truly WCW created megastar, genuine, unstoppable superhero, into a corporate heel against Kevin Nash, who had screwed him out of the most famous undefeated streak of all time. I guess it was shocking if 25 world title changes that year, including David Arquette and Vince Russo winning the belt, hadn't completely immunized the audience from the ability to even register surprise anymore. Man. But compromising Goldberg was one of the last great mistakes in WCW's death throes. It was dropped shortly after, but the damage was done, and the company's last superhero, its biggest character, became just another unremarkable part of the great blurring carousel of character alignment, motivation and consequence that was WCW. Number 2, Steve Austin ends the Attitude Era.
WrestleMania 17. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. I knew this one had to be on here because this one hurt me so bad because I was just because the culmination of everything in the Attitude Era occurred at this pay-per-view. You had TLC. You had Undertaker and Triple H. You had William Regal and you had Chris Jericho, William Regal. You had Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle. You had Kane. You had all of these great matches, and it was all just this huge culmination of the Attitude Era. And the final thing you put on the card is the match everyone wants to see: the rematch between Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Both of them faces, both of them perfectly like built at this point as god tier faces. Then this.
Named the most famous heel turn of all time, chances are that Stone Cold selling his soul to muscle and fitness Satan is probably going to be up there. It was the exclamation point on the greatest pay-per-view.
It's the greatest WWF pay-per-view of all time, period.
Subversion of everything that had rocketed WWE to this point. It was also a huge mistake. Many fans couldn't accept that Austin and McMahon could ever be friends after 3 years of them making each other's lives hell. Some people thought Austin thrived in the role, adding a hilarious new dimension to his character. That's subjective, and we could go round and round. What's undisputed is that it was a major misstep for business, because who does Austin feud with? Rock was gone until SummerSlam, Triple H was heel, Angle was heel, Jericho was mid-card, Kane was mid-card, the only true main eventer left was Undertaker, and as much as we idolize a dead man now, he had never truly carried the company as a top guy, especially not as Biker Taker. Pay-per-view buys went down, ratings went down, and the pay-per-view hot streak that WWE had started in 2000 slowly petered out before the lackluster invasion cemented the Attitude Era as being truly dead. But hey, WWE's still here, right? Number 1, the finger poke of doom for WCW. So, Goldberg was WCW champion going into Starrcade.
Why, dude?
God!
Undefeated
Fucking
and sort
sakes.
of the best thing going at the time. However, he had beaten everyone on the roster pretty much, and, well, it was Starrcade, so they decided to beat him via mischievous electricity. Even though Hall had interfered, Nash was still a face at the time, denounced Hall's interference, and offered Goldberg a rematch. However, that match ended up happening between Nash and a returning Hulk Hogan who had taken some brief time away to run for president. Isn't that silly? The bell rang, Hogan poked Nash in the chest, who fell down and let Hogan pin him, cue Nash turning heel, and a reunion of the original NWO lineup after months of infighting. Fun fact, this was the same week that Mankind won the WWF title on Raw, a change that WCW spoiled and caused hundreds of thousands of people to change the channel to see it happen. Many commentators single out this episode, and in fact the finger poke of doom, as being the beginning of the end for WCW.
It was.
Especially in the classic The Death of WCW, where it was the single most destructive Nitro in the history of the company. I guess David Arquette won the belt on Thunder, so fair enough. It's perhaps oversimplifying things to blame one booking event for the death of a company, but it's hard to argue against the fact that this was the point when WCW's ratings began to steadily decline without ever coming back. They promised Goldberg versus Nash the rematch, fans got a non-match, and Hogan back on top. It proved to be one betrayal too many for the fans, a sign that nothing really mattered, no promises would be kept, the same old boys will kill all your heroes, that it wasn't worth investing yourself in this parade of senseless twists. WCW didn't sink overnight, but this poked a hole in the boat. That's our list. What are the turns with a dog worth? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget, you can check out the first episode of our brand new wrestling RPG series. Lots fun known right now. Click the link. Click it, you idiot.
Lots of wrong turns, man. It seemed like WCW just banged up against each and every guardrail they could find until the point that they flipped the ride down the hill. You know?
Oh yeah, they eventually rammed the guardrail so many times it eventually gave way and literally just spun out of control until it was a mangled heap at the bottom. For Vince to literally come by with a tow truck and just be like, I own this now.
You can't be having these crazy folks making executive decisions constantly.
No.
You got to have a buffer. That's the thing that Vince Russo had around him in WWF.
Well,
was people to be like, no.
As much as the comedy played out between Russo and Cornette, Corny was at least there to at least be like when Vince would just be like, how about this? How about we do this right here? And Jim would just be like, fuck are you doing? Sit the fuck down, you Yankee ass cocksucker.
Yeah.
And then of course there was also Pat Patterson and Briscoe.
Plenty of people.
And plenty of people to bounce ideas off of who knew the industry at least enough to where you could make it not just salvageable, but something more interesting.
Yeah.
You see, a shotgun blast is scattershot, but it only has to hit a few pellets in order for it to do something. But it can do a lot of damage if it's off-center. Yeah. And it's malaligned. But overall, I would say Vince Russo's biggest flaw is that the ideas came to him, but he just didn't have a grasp on the common everyday wrestling fan. Mm-hmm. He had a common everyday grasp of like what
mid-90s and
early 2000s
and late 90s pop culture.
Yeah.
But after that, that was a fleeting time. That was a fleeting moment in entertainment.
I could effectively see him as like a street hustler on the streets of New York at the time and just be like, come on, bro, you want the latest Limp Bizkit t-shirts? Come on, bro, you want the latest Linkin Park shit? How about some rap tracks to get yourselves all hyped up and hip on, you know? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was an interesting cat and still is to this very day.
Yeah.
But, one of the big things that they didn't talk about was, I guess it's not a heel turn that backfired because he was heel for like all time pretty much. Scott Steiner. On WCW.
When he betrayed Rick, my heart sank because I'd always known the Steiner brothers.
That was one that was actually enjoyable to look back on, but when it was happening, it was just like, oh my god, he just dominated that show, man.
He did. I mean, you look at the guy, he's like, in terms of charisma, he is the more interesting of the Steiner brothers. Mm-hmm. I mean, Rick is great. Rick is like fun enough to watch. He's on
yeah.
But again, we'd seen that before with Junkyard Dog. We'd seen that before with various other wrestlers,
Didn't George the Animal still bark and shit?
Yeah, you'd seen it before. You'd seen certain gimmicks before. And he had a dog collar on and, he tried to, like, portray himself as, like, a bulldog.
Right.
But, again, there's just... I remember when Rick Steiner's singles push died when he injured Buff Bagwell. You remember that? He went for a Steiner Bulldog, the solo one, and then Buff Bagwell went down late, and he ran into the back of Steiner's arm and literally like cranked his neck back real bad, and he injured his neck. That was the end of Buff Bagwell's like big run as well. In which
how it goes sometimes.
It is, man, and that sucks because you have two guys who look like they can like tear the sky apart. Like Rick didn't have as much definition as Scott, right, but he was still freaking huge and was a big time like traditional wrestler. And Buff Bagwell was a great heel, man. Yes. He was a great heel if you let him have his time to just be who he was. But then I remembered, like, the Judy Bagwell on a forklift match, and I'm just like, what the fuck? God, dude.
Just more bullshit ideas that somehow made it on TV. But
yeah.
There you go.
The San Francisco 49ers match. Oh, yeah, Booker T, how you going to get over? Yeah, you're going to punch a box. The box is going to be so shittily built, it's going to fall apart. Title's going to fall out the bottom of it, and you're going to be standing there with a jackass with an empty box thinking, oh, the title's not here. Oh, shit. Yeah. Just
unbelievable.
Wrestling is weird, y'all, and it's a weird game that you and I love.
Yes,
we love wrestling. Going back, so much chaos, and to see where it's at now, it's
at an interesting place.
The main shows for WWE, the only things that are working for them, they're being too reliant on, and they took too long to turn Roman heel. That's the big thing with me. They took way too long to turn Roman heel, and I understand that they had to take their time because cancer, and I'm glad Roman was able to beat it, but you wanted to ride the babyface thing with him for as much as you could, but again, there's just so much there's only so much you get. Well, you can go back and forth multiple times. The Rock has done it before. If your star is good enough and has the charisma for it, they're good enough. Because Rock did it. Triple H. I remember when Triple H was a huge heel. Him and Stone Cold Steve Austin, 2001. They were on the two-man power trip. Trips had the Intercontinental title. Stone Cold had the heavyweight title. Trips goes down with a torn quad. He's gone for pretty much almost a year. Yep. Comes back. What happens? Probably one of the most epic returns of all time. Yep. Comes out because you had those promos beforehand from showing his recovery process. Yeah. Made you feel for the guy. And then he comes back and he goes to WrestleMania 18 and he wins. And if you ask me, that's in terms of culminations, that's great in terms of a face run. The only thing is they made it between Stephanie and Hunter instead of between Chris Jericho and Hunter like it should have been in terms of the booking.
They were doing all kinds of that drama shit with females at that point. And it was a different time, and female characters were treated as kind of like totems to be held by men in their feuds and shit. And I mean, there's a lot of bullshit like that. And I don't think that really overshadowed what was going on in the ring between Triple H and Chris Jericho, but it did muddy the waters of the story.
Yeah, and me, I went and watched that live, and it was awesome.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, dude, holy crap. The building exploded when Trips pinned Chris Jericho. And then, of course, there was also, Chris Jericho doing heel work. Mm-hmm. Some of the best. He's easily, he goes back and forth between heel and face for so many times.
Oh, yeah. Didn't he cut a promo about Stephanie calling her vagina the Grand Canyon or something like that?
Yeah, Hunter did that. And he's just like, Stephanie, even a 747 looks small when it's flying into the Grand Canyon.
That's it. Oh my god.
I also remember Chris Jericho going in on Stephanie. It's like, Daddy's little girl certainly has grown over the last year. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you must have some kind of imagination. He's like, you know what? You're right. We could go to dinner to discuss it. I hear there's a Hooters just down the road. And then The Rock comes out and just verbally mauls the shit out of Booker T, the little short Booker bus. Beep, beep. Hey, Booker T, what's 2 plus 2? 2 plus 2? Booker T knows the answer to that. 2 plus 2? Thomas Jefferson, sucker! The Rock and Chris Jericho just cutting like mad promos back then was some of the best shit,
Stupid
dude.
skill.
Oh my god.
Stupid skill.
I couldn't stop myself from laughing.
Yeah.
So
That's one thing WCW, other than Ric Flair,
never had.
well, I mean, they did.
Well, they
but
had to.
They had like Macho Man and Hogan and shit like that.
But those were promos we'd seen 1,000 times before.
Right. These, like, it went from wrestling promos to Yo Mama,
Yeah.
pretty much. I mean, they were just going out there and burying each other, which is like this rule that you're not supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not. But dude, come on.
Well,
it totally works. If you're not a fucking mark
does.
for yourself as a worker, then your opponent in wrestling should be able to say anything to you that somebody you were about to fight on the streets would say to you.
Yeah.
That's what they should be able to say to you without your dick getting twisted and you crying like a fucking bitch. But in all honesty, and unfortunately, in the wrestling business, people's like souls and pride and size of their dicks is tied up in these fucking characters. And if you say something bad about them, then they take it personally and will fucking try to hurt you in the ring or something.
Yeah, I've seen
ridiculous.
I've seen that happen a couple times.
But,
and
you know,
it's ugly.
Get your fucking, like, life together. If what someone says about you in a wrestling promo is enough to hurt your feelings, you're probably a bitch.
Yeah. No, I don't doubt that for a second, man.
You know.
Because you've gone up against people who've just, like, gotten their feelings hurt. Because when you
yeah.
cut promos, you go in because that's what you do.
Well, I want people to believe it's about to go down between me and this other person, and if I'm just like, you know, I've heard great things about this guy, I'm looking forward to this competition, it's just like not as interesting to me as somebody who's like, they better hope I don't catch that son of a bitch out in the parking lot before we get in there.
It effectively goes back to the mentality that Jake the Snake helped cultivate. I mean, there were others before him, but he was the one that broke through on a mainstream level as like a villain that people were just like, ooh, I want to see what this guy's going to do next. And his like methodical way of tearing stuff, like breaking stuff down, and like that, he would dip into like the personal lives because keep in mind at the time when he was like going up against Macho Man Randy Savage, him and Elizabeth were going through problems, and he was not afraid to exploit that. And that's actually when the Macho Man like got bit by the Cobra. Yeah. And like before the show, he was so paranoid about Jake like saying that shit about him. He made Jake get bit by the same fucking Cobra. And then he was just like, all right now, Jake, don't take no elixirs, don't take nothing. I want you to see the poison go through your veins. Dig it? And he's like, sure fucking thing, Randy, what the fuck ever. Yeah. And then he sat there for like a few minutes and he's like, are you fucking satisfied? He's like, I guess you're gonna be okay. Let's go out there and make some big money. All right. And then Jake paintbrushed the snake a few times, got it pissed off, and it latched onto Savage. Oh.
It did.
God!
It latched him, man. And it was like you could see it shaking and like grinding on his arm.
Yeah.
I've been bit by a snake too. Have you?
Yeah, on my foot.
You can feel it, dude. It feels like sandpaper and it's like hot. When they move and grind those fucking teeth on your...
Well, it's because their fangs are like freaking this long. That going into your skin, razor sharp.
Well, this wasn't like a venomous snake that
No. I mean, that like they have fangs to like bite on and latch on to prey. Yeah. And they do that, and when they grind around, thinking because that's how they kill their prey. They latch onto them, and they grind around to like break their spines and stuff.
Let me tell you, it fucking hurts.
It does. It sucks. Well, there was a
podcast.
That was a little bit of a podcast. Yeah, we can't help ourselves. But these are 10 wrestling heel turns that massively backfired by Wrestle Talk. These like drummed up some memories, but you know what?
They hurt.
But they're fun to look back on sometimes.
Some of them.
Yeah. So, again, everyone, thank you all so much for tuning in. And I guess until next time, signing off, I'm Nate.
I'm Chad.
We'll see you then. Peace out.